Hey Capricorn, welcome to your weekly forecast for October 11th through 17th. I'm saying weekly, but these energies are going to be around for a while. If you happen to find this video outside of the time I mentioned, don't you worry your pretty little heads, my darlings. You have found it exactly when you were meant to find it, okay? When you were ready to hear the messages. These are general messages for the general collective. So not every single message is going to resonate. Take the ones that do and leave the ones that don't. So without further ado, my darling Cappies, let's see what's going on for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Alrighty, my dears. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so first card coming up here is the Death card. Okay, this is a major arcana card. Now, some people freak out when they see this card. They don't like it. I have found it to be, from my personal experience, very positive. Okay, and I'm not just saying this from a Scorpio bias, okay, as a Scorpio. Speaking of which, some of you may be dealing with a Scorpio. If you have a Scorpio placement, there could be big changes or big shifts in that area of your life. In general, this is a major arcana card. So the major arcana cards are going to come up anytime that we're coming into a new chapter. We're coming into a significant shift, a significant change. So even though I'm reading for October 11th through 17th, setting the intention for this period of time, this is energy that's going to be around for a while. Now, I also want to bring to your attention, I am reading for you the week prior to a full moon. To have the Death card come up as we're approaching a full moon, if I was pulling cards for myself personally, I would take that to mean that you are about to have a really significant release, like a really big, really massive release. And some of you maybe have been praying for this. Maybe you've just been like, look God, look universe, look angels, whatever I've been holding on to that I need to get out, I need to get done, I need to clear. Let's just get it out in like one big push. I feel like this is happening for you. And I feel like because it's so much, you're going to be in those full moon vibes a little earlier than some of the other signs, and you're going to start a lot of that release this week, coming into the following week. I feel like it's going to be a 3-week period of time of like release, but this is the beautiful part of it. Spirit is giving me the sense and the feeling that it's going to be without agony. I heard the words without agony. And maybe some of you have asked for this. Maybe you've asked to get it out, but you've also been like, can we also just like be gentle though? Like, can we get it all done, but can we be gentle with me? And so I do feel like it's going to feel like a very natural process for you. Like, I feel like there's a lot of acceptance. So if there's been anything that you haven't been able to really get closure, I feel like there's closure and acceptance coming your way. Keep your mind open about what that closure is going to look like. Because I'm not guaranteeing here, I'm not promising you here that some terrible, hurtful person is going to see things and change, right? Like, oh, I've seen the light, I've been terrible, let me go say sorry to Capricorn. Let me go make things right. I can't promise you that the closure will happen in that way. For some of you, it may, it can, it's possible. But keep your mind open for what that closure is going to look like. But I feel closure, acceptance, release, and peace. These are the energies you're stepping into. And so it's going to come through realizations of what no longer serves you, epiphanies, things that you're just releasing, deciding to forgive, things that you don't want the weight of holding on to it anymore. Some of you are feeling like by holding on to this, other people are winning. They're happy. They're living their life. Why should you be miserable? So I do feel like this release feels, as it's happening, you feel like you're getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Like if you were at the bottom of the ocean, right? Or maybe that's a very extreme example, but if you were underwater, maybe not the bottom of the ocean, but if you were very deep underwater And as you're releasing, you're coming up higher and higher and higher. Like you're just like kind of floating to the surface, floating out from under the heaviness. Feel like effortlessly, right? Like when you float or when you swim, we move very effortlessly in the water. So the release is going to be an effortless release. And as you're releasing, you're just going to feel lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And once it's out, you're like, oh, like I can breathe, like a breath of fresh air. So I don't feel sorrow. I don't feel loss. I just feel like this is what it is. Like the time for this is done. Time for the new time. Time for the rebirth. Time for what's ahead for us. Death card can also indicate ego death, and that can be a doozy. It can be terrifying at the beginning, but ego death is a very liberating process. And ego death is when you're releasing all the should, right? Or all of the program or all of the labeling that's been put on you from the time you were young. Capricorn, you're not enough of this. Capricorn, you're too much of that, right? So we try to fit into what we're told, what we're being told we should or shouldn't be. You're releasing all that. There is no should. There is no shouldn't. This is the authentic self. This is who I am. And so when that happens, it can feel scary because you might find that the things that brought you joy aren't doing anything for you anymore. So like your favorite band in the world, your favorite music in the world, or your favorite movie, or your favorite people to hang out with, you might be feeling like they kind of bore you. Like you're just kind of sick of it. And you're like, yeah, like what do I do? The old go-tos aren't working. Well, there's going to be a time of release, a time of self-discovery, a time of realizing, you know, what you like because you've been taught to like it, and, you know, getting into what you want to do naturally, where your instinct is leading you, where your instinct is drawing you. Now, your next card here, Capricorn, is the Nine of Wands, right? And the Nine of Wands tells us this is it. You're coming up on the last big push. Sometimes when I'm reading and I'm reading the cards and I start to read the energy, I get a little bit ahead of the cards and then I get a confirmation. And so the Nine of Wands is giving me that confirmation. Nine of Wands is telling us you're coming up on the last big push, right? Because 10 is completion. He's been through the 9 battles or the 9 tests or the 9 trials, right? And now he's coming to the last one and it's done, finished, right? Game over. He won the game. He beat all the bad guys. Nine of Wands tells us that we might also be very scared. We might be worried because we're making choices, we're making decisions, we're making certain decisions about certain cords or ties that we're cutting. We're making choices and decisions about who we're letting in. And so that can be very scary. But the Nine of Wands wants you to know that there's nothing new under the sun anybody can come at you with. Okay, every single one of these wands belongs to someone. He's just minding his own business. That person came up to him and started trouble. Tried to beat him up, tried to take him down, but he won. We see here there's a bandage around his head, so he's not without injury, right? He took some hits, he took some licks, but he's still standing. And he's still alert and he's still aware. And this is not his first rodeo. He's been through this 9 times already. So by the time the 10th one comes, you already know. There's no new trick, nothing new under the sun anybody can come at you with. You've seen every lie. You've seen every manipulation. You've seen every dirty little trick in the book. You know what to look out for. As long as you're paying attention to red flags, you never have to be scared about making the wrong decision or trusting the wrong person or letting in the wrong person. Also this week and the weeks coming up, Capricorn, pay attention to situations or people that you're coming across that all of a sudden your mind is saying, this person really reminds me of my old boss. You know, this person really reminds me of that one job I had where they kept cutting out on my pay. Like every time I would check my paycheck and it was like missing a bunch of hours, and I had to go through the runaround to get that put back on my paycheck. Or, you know what, this person really reminds me of that one person I was dating that was very unfaithful. They were trying to get with my closest friends and my family members. They remind me a lot of that person, or this ex or that ex, or my cousin who was always talking about me behind my back. Pay attention to that stuff. Pay attention to that stuff. That's not you being judgmental. That's your intuition coming to the surface. That's your higher self saying, hey, Capricorn, remember that one person? Remember that one situation? We already learned that lesson. We don't have to do this again. We don't have to repeat the same lesson with a different person, because this person is essentially a carbon copy of the person you're being reminded of right now. You don't have to do this again. That's not you being judgmental. When we're on the spiritual path, we think, oh, I don't want to judge anybody. I want to have an open mind. But when your intuition is telling you something, listen to it. Pay attention. If something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't feel off, trust it. If somebody's reminding you of a certain person or a certain situation, it's because it's the same type of person or the same type of situation. You don't need to give it your time or energy. Your next card coming up, Capricorn, is the Five of Swords. Okay? There could be a burning of bridges. Maybe some of you are hoping or planning to confront a Scorpio about a situation. The Nine of Wands would tell us that this is probably going to be someone who's going to stand their ground, who's not going to change their mind or see things differently. And there could be a burning of bridges here for some of you. Now, Scorpio aside, it doesn't have to be a Scorpio. It could be any old sign, because this is a card about transition and change. It could be a transition and change in more than one relationship, in more than one situation. Also, it could be somebody's moon or rising or Venus. It's not always going to be the sun sign. Five of Swords is like a scorched earth type of battle, though, right? It can be a little thing that turns into a big deal, a big situation, right? Like somebody drank the last bottled water in the fridge and it's World War III in the kitchen all of a sudden, right? Because it's not about the last bottle of water. It's about the fact that somebody feels like you never think about me. I'm upset because I even asked you to help me carry that big old heavy pack of water into the house. You wouldn't even help me carry it into the house. I had to bring it in piece by piece, and then you don't even leave me a bottle of water. Like, it's like a little thing that becomes a big issue because it's all the stuff underneath the surface. It's not, it's bigger than just that bottle of water, right? Like, that's the example I'm giving you. And so there could be some kind of like a situation where you're really wanting to go off on somebody, or vice versa. It could be the other way around for some of you. And so Five of Swords says, be careful here. Pay attention to the situation, because based on how it's handled, if it can be met with gentleness and caution, you can diffuse the situation from being explosive. If you allow it to go to that level, chances are it will be a burning of bridges. Depending on the situation, some of you are like, heck yeah, let's burn that bridge. I'm ready to do it. And other ones of you are like, yeah, you know, maybe I want some distance, but I don't necessarily want to burn the bridge. So just be aware of that when you find yourself coming upon a confrontation this week and next week. Now, with the Five of Swords, also you could be in a situation where you are triggering someone, or someone is feeling very triggered by you. And so if you're the one being triggered, what can be really helpful is to take a step aside before you react and write out what happened, who was involved, what was said, what was done, how did it make me feel about myself or life or whatever. Like, how did it make me feel? When else have I felt this way in my life before? Like, if I can try to think back, who else or who was the first person that made me feel this way in my lifetime? What were they doing that made me feel that way? Next thing to write about is, why do I think they did it? This person in the present situation, why do I think they did that? The person before in my life that made me feel this way, why do I think they did that? And then writing out a forgiveness and release, like releasing that person of expectation, releasing, why this happened, why they may have behaved that way, that even though it hurt you, they don't have power over you now. You can let them go. You're not going to let them be the be all and end all of your universe, right? The universe is abundant. This person is not your only source of happiness. This person is not your only source of protection or love, right? Like there are other avenues that you can access that. And so releasing them of that expectation, and then releasing yourself and forgiving yourself of anything you're blaming yourself about. Like, maybe you're mad that you got in that situation. Maybe you're mad that you let that person into your life. Maybe you're mad about something, like a certain way that you handled a situation. Forgive yourself. And then at the end, write out how you're choosing to feel about yourself and the situation and about life from now on moving forward. I understand it has like several steps to it, but if you can take the time and be patient enough to do it, it's gonna deactivate that trigger so that the trigger no longer exists. So it doesn't matter if this person or somebody else is trying to push that button intentionally or unintentionally. Even if it's intentionally, they can push that button 1,000 times and you're good. You're fine. You have no reaction at all because it's no longer active. They no longer have that power over you. They can no longer push that button. You're dealing with someone who's pushing your buttons, many of you. And they're making you feel guilty for your opinions or the way you feel about life, or they want you to do something and you don't want to do it. They're pushing every little trigger to guilt you into doing what they want you to do. This is your chance to clear the triggers so that you no longer have them. And you can no longer be made to feel bad or embarrassed or shamed into doing things, right? Some of you might say, well, you know what? I'm not going to do it because they're doing that. And that's good. But wouldn't you also want to take this chance to get rid of the triggers so that they don't exist? Why not? It's good that you're not going to give in, but why not also do the work so that the triggers no longer exist and you don't have to feel the discomfort around not doing it. Your next card here, Capricorn, is the Tower. This is a big week. This is a big, big week. We're talking about really big life decisions and really big changes here. Okay? The Tower is going to be a massive paradigm shift for many of us that we're coming into, regardless of if we're Capricorn or not. We are as a whole, as a race of people, the human race, we are going to have our minds blown, okay? We're coming into a time that a lot of what we thought wasn't, and a lot of what wasn't is, okay? So you will experience this in your personal life, but I feel for many of you, the world dynamic is affecting your personal life. It's bringing out the best in people, and it's bringing out the worst in people. Okay? And so I feel for a lot of you, Capricorns, there's a lot of truth with this Tower card. Truth, not necessarily like Spirit is exposing people to you that were hiding secrets, but like your eyes opening. Your eyes are opening and you're seeing through people. And you're seeing through situations. And you're like, I don't like this situation. I don't want to have it around anymore. And I do feel this Nine of Wands with this Tower, some of you are holding on to a boundary with that person. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't have to be a Scorpio. Okay, it could be any sign, because the Death card is also just going to be the ending of a cycle, the ending of the way you've been living your life up until now, right? It's the paradigm shift. It's coming into a new MO, not doing things the same way anymore. When you do approach someone who's triggering you, or when you do finally make it clear to them that, you know, there's this boundary, even though you might be saying so very gently, be prepared for, especially if you're dealing with a narcissist, this person's going to throw quite the temper tantrum. Be prepared for that. And so for some of you, it might be a good idea, if you're in a situation where they have some of your property or some of your belongings, it might be a good idea to try to find a clever, cautious little way to get your things back, or to get your things out of their house or out of their car before you have this parting of ways. Or if you are talking to them, it might be good to do so in a public space or a public place. I know that can be challenging right now, depending on where you live, because we're dealing with a lot of the changes here, and like where we can go and where we can be and where we can eat and where we can drink and all that. But it might be a good idea to have these conversations in person. Okay? I will also tell you this. Even though I feel this person's going to throw a temper tantrum, they're going to come back. This could be a family member. This could be a romantic partner. This could be like a job situation. They're going to throw a temper tantrum, and they're going to act like you're like the worst, you know, person in the world. And then I feel like some time is going to go by, and then they're going to try to pull you back in. Oh, you know, come back and work for us again. Or, you know, please forgive me. Let's reconcile. Or I'm really sorry, let's work on our relationship. But the Tower is, you're never going to be able to see that person the same way again. And you're never going to see people in general the same way again. But that there's a positive in that, because now you're seeing who you can trust and who you can't. You're seeing clearly, right? It's almost like you have this figurative X-ray vision, where you're going to be able to figure out people within the first, 30 seconds to 2 minutes. You already know who or what you're dealing with. And you're not going to be finding yourself in situations where you're wasting time. Some of you might be making big changes to accounts. You may be closing accounts or moving them into different accounts. You may be cashing out certain accounts and deciding to put that money elsewhere. I feel like some of you are doing moves around those lines as well, for different reasons. You may want to check out your moon sign and rising sign videos. Some weeks are going to resonate with you more than others. You may need a private reading, which I'm more than happy to do for you. If you go to calendly.com/amethystangelite, you can schedule a private reading with me there. I finally figured out how to make links work. So there is a link in the description now. You can definitely do that. And then some people have asked me about donating to the channel or making contributions. I'm very touched by that. Guys, there's no obligation whatsoever to do that. But if you feel moved to do so, I do appreciate it. I could use it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a wealthy person. But there's a link for that in the description as well. I thank you all for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, my dears. And if you're looking for love and romance readings, those are linked in the description. Take care, my dears.